Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked, blissed? Here we go. Dr. Shealy, are you blissed? It's great to hear your voice, Dr. Shealy. Let me give out the phone number for those who'd like to call in and talk to medical doctor Dr. Norm Shealy. And if you'd like to go to his website, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. And our call-in line, we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Dr. Shealy, this is as close to your broadcast as we can get. We've got Rick in West Central Florida on the line. Welcome, Rick.
Hey, Vince, how you doing today?
The reason I said this
today,
is
pal.
the reason I said this is as close to Dr. Shealy's broadcast as we can get. I've been in the studio where Dr. Shealy broadcasts at a local radio station here in Springfield, Missouri. And callers are lined up, ready to go before the broadcast starts. And Dr. Shealy says, I'm Dr. Norm Shealy, and you can be on the air. And Jody, welcome. It's as fast as that. So, Rick, welcome. You're on with Dr. Norm Shealy. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, Norm. Can I call you Norm, man?
Well, of course.
All right, buddy.
If I could call you Rick.
Well, that'd be fine with me. I got a two-part. Pardon me? I have a two-part question. Sorry, with the delay, we're stomping on each other.
Go ahead, Rick.
Okay. First, I want to do a shout-out to Ed McVinney down there in South Florida. I hope he got his lifeboat out last night, man. They got slammed. And if you go to Intellicast and check out the weather, you'll see that we got a 200-mile wide storm getting ready to come up here and smack us in the face. So I don't think we're getting much sleep around here. And let me see. Oh, yeah.
Hey, Rick.
Mike.
Rick.
Yeah,
Rick.
I sent you that email, but I had to send you two. And Ron Gibson, man, don't ever get sick no more. We can't do it without you, dude.
Yeah. By the way, he's doing USA Prepares on YouTube, commercial free now.
Yeah, generally that's where I got to get it if I I'm not awake and I catch it late and I can't get live. So we depend on you, Ron. Man, you're a blessing. You're like a national treasure and a hero.
Yes.
And
and he's a nice guy,
dude, because we need you, man. And
hey, Rick.
Yeah, let's get on to it. Because callers are lined up, right?
Let's get into it very quickly. Go ahead, please.
Okie dokie. I had the same problem that Vince had, Norm, and I almost blew my colon out my sphincter, and I was wrapping my arms around my abdomen to keep from perforating, probably my lower intestine, I do believe, and I came real close to it. But what I'm wondering is, being that I'm still having some pain, number one, is do you think that'll heal by itself, seeing how I didn't perforate and I really didn't do, I don't think I really did a lot of damage to it. I mean, I was finding myself sitting on a chair arm to make sure that I didn't pass everything out my sphincter and blow my gut out through my gut at the same time from all the coughing fits from that chemtrail flu.
And when did this happen?
That was about 4 weeks before, or maybe 2 or 3 weeks before Vince got hit.
Okay, now, how much overweight are you?
Oh man, I'm like recuperating from the cancer, man. That's the part 2 part of the question.
Okay,
but,
so
yeah, and I can take, I can grab all the answers to that off of YouTube later on. You can answer it and all that, unless you want me to stick around and answer.
No, you're not overweight, Ben.
No, I'm probably, if you stood me and Vince side by side, you'd think we were twins.
Okay, and you have been examined by your physician.
As a matter of fact, I see them too frequently, man.
Well, I always the one thing that physicians do best is make a diagnosis.
Right.
And so when you've got an acute thing, no matter what it is, I do recommend that a physician, feel the abdomen and decide whether any kind of x-rays are necessary. Now, if it's still here 4 weeks after it happened, something is not right.
Okay, so what I did was I get my iodine from InfoWars. I don't like plugging anything for anybody, but if it works, I'm going to tell you, it works, okay? And I like the X2, and I doubled that, okay? Vince, do you check your Vincent at usapreparedness.com email?
Sometimes. Sometimes I do.
I sent you a few, so you might want to go back and check those out. Anyway, okay, so I take MHC mineral concentrate, and I doubled that from 1 dropper to 2 a day. I doubled my iodine from 1 dropper to 2 droppers a day. I increased my vitamin C from 2 to 6,000 IUs, and I might even take that to 10. I incorporated my zinc, my selenium, my oh wow, it's orange, and right now I'm having brain complications. When you're 59, you sort of slip into that realm of where's your brain, especially since how you've been up since midnight watching a storm that developed an eye at 8:30 this morning. But anyway, so with everything that I'm taking, what I did was I doubled everything up for about 2 weeks. And I started seeing some relief on that, especially with, the coughing going away and the rest of that. But when the coughing persisted for, like after 2 weeks, I said, I got to do something about this, because I can't walk around holding my guts in and sitting on chair arms to keep from passing everything through my sphincter. And so I doubled my colloidal silver to 16 ounces a day, and I make my own at 20%. So I'd like to make it stronger. Yeah.
You're drifting all over the place. Honestly, I feel as if you must have a good examination by a physician.
Okay, but that's next week. But I found that worked, and it all cleared up, and I'm doing pretty good. And as long as I baby myself and don't do any strenuous things, I really don't have a problem. There's no tenderness or anything in my abdomen or anything from where I had that episode.
Well, I hope that it works out well next week, but this is the kind of situation, especially with your previous history, where you just shouldn't ignore this kind of thing.
Oh, I agree
The one
with that.
thing that physicians do best is make a diagnosis.
I knew it wasn't the cancer, because the cancer was bladder kidney.
No,
Okay,
I'm not worried about that. I just think you need to have a thorough physical exam.
Well,
Rick, what Dr. Shealy is saying is that you need to be physically examined one-on-one, where your physician can ask you questions and visibly look and see for him or herself what the situation is, and maybe do some testing. Rick, hey, thank you so much for your call. We appreciate it. Dr. Shealy, sometimes it's difficult to for a medical doctor to diagnose and to understand what's happening over the phone. And I think that was one of those cases, don't you think?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I think the important thing is that once a physician has determined what's going on, you can take their advice or not, but it is important to get it done so you know, because we are, as physicians, that is our forte, making a diagnosis. Treatment is not necessarily a forte.
Dr. Shealy, I was thinking about young people before the broadcast, and I was thinking back to a day when I was visiting a high school. And something that really stuck in my mind was the number of young people after school who were running for exercise as directed by their coaches to get in better physical condition. And the thing that really surprised me was the number of these young high school children who were using inhalers in order to be able to run. So my question is there a potential for being addicted to these inhalers? So, that you're short of breath once and you get an inhaler and you use it and you go, it really works great. And then next time you use it, and then pretty soon you're using not one inhalation but two, and then pretty soon you're using it all day long because it's certainly more pleasant to breathe with less effort than with more effort. And so my question, Dr. Shealy, is, are we at risk for taking the easy way out, using inhalers rather than something else? Fixing
Absolutely, Vent. And whether it's addiction or habit, there are withdrawal symptoms when people get habituated to something of that sort. I mean, basically, there are two major types of inhalers. One is with cortisone-like drugs, and the other is some kind of antihistamine or related drugs that stop or control the allergic reaction. And both of these are okay for short-term use, but long-term, they create problems.
Dr. Shealy, what kind of problems could someone develop as a result of long-term addiction or use of the inhalers? Can we talk about that when we come back?
You bet.
Are we talking about cancers? Are we talking about reduced lung capacity? Are we talking about kidney, liver problems? Where does this go? The overuse of inhalers. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, medical doctor. I'm Vin Finelli. This is USA Prepares. Norman Shealy and I are talking about inhalers, addiction to inhalers, and the overuse of inhalers. So, Dr. Shealy, what kinds of complications can result in the overuse of inhalers? What can we do to ourselves?
Simple causes are a rapid heartbeat, headaches, and nervousness. The more complicated ones are severe infections because of weakening of the immune system, and long-term chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. In other words, COPD, which is severe scarring of the lungs. Other than that,
as a result
Lincoln, they're not too bad.
So that's as an overuse of inhalers. You can give yourself COPD.
You bet. It may be more common today than smoking.
Wow. So, Dr. Shealy, I don't think many young people know this, and so what is the alternative to someone who has, one of these young people who wants to be involved in track or volleyball or basketball, but just can't catch his or her breath? Is there an exercise? Is there a diet regimen? Is there something that they can do to help themselves?
Well, yeah, there's several things. Number one would be autogenic training. Now, you've heard me speak this. I think I mention it almost every week. Autogenic training retrains the entire automatic, if you will, nervous system. Now, it takes 3 months of daily practice to get your nervous system retrained. So if you're not willing to do it in 3 months, it's not going to work. but once you've learned it, it can be phenomenally important. And, of course, the second thing is to learn to take care of those things to which you are allergic. And most people who have asthma, which is theoretically the number one use for an inhaler, often have allergies. So sometimes there's desensitization therapy, where they either get shots or sublingual drops to become less sensitive to it. And, of course, you want to strengthen your immune system, which means that you take adequate vitamin C, vitamin E, and vitamin A.
I was thinking about those who might be allergic to mustard or chocolate or cats. Can they desensitize themselves by themselves? Meaning, okay, if they know that they're allergic to mustard, once a week maybe have a tiny drop of mustard, and is that too dangerous?
Basically, the best form is some kind of homeopathic. And so if you know that you are allergic to a specific item, then I would get into homeopathic. And there are homeopathic things to everything, practically. And if there's not a homeopathic, you can make it. You can have it made. I mean, I just looked up homeopathic mustard. There is a homeopathic mustard.
And I was also thinking about, some people are allergic to cats. We have a friend who has never been over to our farmhouse because she says she's allergic to dogs, maybe cats.
Well, that one, again, a dog dander, if you will, is what they're allergic to.
Right.
And interestingly, there's a company in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, that makes immune-enhancing materials by putting dog dander or horse dander or whatever into a cow's udder before she calves, and then they take out of there the antibodies that the cow's milk has made and concentrate them. And I have had people be able to do that to get over allergies to all kinds of things.
Okay, is there a direction that you'd like to point us in? Do we know that, or do you want to maybe tell us on the other side of the break?
Well, yeah, if there's a break coming, we probably should discuss it after. But there's also the thing that I call the Soderman approach, which is a much broader desensitization than just to a given product. It sort of strengthens the whole system, and I really do like this Soderman approach for a lot of things, but especially for severe allergies.
Okay, let's talk about that when we come back. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, medical doctor, radio broadcaster of well over 2 decades, author of well over 30 books. We'll be right back. Last, we've all heard about allergic reactions, and we're talking about the desensitization regarding those allergic reactions. Dr. Shealy, please continue.
Well, in the homeopathic, the Soderman approach to homeopathy, you actually do a whole series of things that are very important. You do the Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle is how you metabolize sugar, glucose, and there are 10 different steps, major steps in that. Then you go through the ketone cycle, and the best known ketone, of course, is CoQ10 or ubiquinone. Then you go through nosodes, and a nosode is tissue from a diseased organ that happens to be related to what you're doing. So in this case, it would be something to do with COPD or that what. Then you go through toxins, known things to which one is toxic. Then you take one traditional homeopathic remedy, and then you finally do the organ itself, the plain organ, like in this case it would be the lungs. And I have found, it's a little bit complex. You take 6 different remedies twice a week, but there's a system to it. And I have found it extremely useful for people with rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, very serious autoimmune disease, better than anything conventional medicine has to offer.
Okay. Dr. Shealy, during the break, I was looking at some headlines. And
Right.
I see a headline about Hillary Clinton that I absolutely agree with. And it's on the front page of the Drudge Report, the largest typeface they have. And here it is, quote, hating Hillary, record number dislike. I absolutely agree with that. There's got to be a record number of people who dislike Hillary. The sound of her voice,
think so.
what she says.
Is, in my opinion, I don't call her bitch of the millennium for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I think she is, at the present time, the most obnoxious woman on the face of the earth.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And
She's
then there was
slightly worse than
another...
the wicked queen in the traditional sense.
Mm-hmm. And then there's another, it's not quite as large of a headline, it's much smaller, but this is another headline I agree with, and it says L.A., like Los Angeles Times poll, Trump 45.3%, Clinton 41.9%. I agree that it's impossible for me to understand how Hillary Clinton could be ahead of Donald Trump. It makes absolutely no sense.
Well,
so I agree that
she is theoretically, according to some things ahead, is the media. The media is as evil as she is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then there was another headline that talks about a candidate's death could delay or eliminate the presidential election. And it goes on to say that, let me get rid of this ad here, and this next ad. Okay, this is usnews.com. It says the U.S. presidential election could be delayed or scrapped altogether if conspiracy theories become predictive and a candidate dies or drops out before November 8th. And it says it goes on to say that there's nothing in the Constitution which requires a popular election for the electors serving in the Electoral College, says John Nagel, a law professor at the University of Notre Dame, meaning the body that officially elects a president could convene without the general public voting.
Well, I would think that this would lead to the greatest problem this country's ever had, and almost certainly to civil war.
No disagreement from me.
But I think if Hillary's elected, we've got a better than 50-50 chance of a civil war.
Or even greater. Because
right. That's the minimum. It's 50. Yeah, I think it's probably closer to 75%.
Mm-hmm. No disagreement. I think, and there are actors and actresses. Barbara Streisand said that if Donald Trump is elected or selected, she will leave the country. Oh, that's great news. That's great news that she would leave. I just can't believe that some of these Hollywood people are behind Hillary Clinton. What is it?
Oh, come on now. You're just... Vince. Hollywood sucks because the media has made them.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are the
absolutely.
Pimp. The whole media supports bullshit. Excuse me, but I know we're on the air, but there's a place for it.
It's amazing to me that people could be so naive, so ill-informed, so brainwashed, so conned by the media that they would support Hillary. Just listening to her for a minute is enough to turn. It should be enough to turn everybody off. Dr. Shealy, I was looking at grapes yesterday. I happened to be in Springfield and dropped into Sam's Club with the family, and they had this large display of grapes, and they had red grapes and green grapes, different types of grapes. And I bought this multi-pound container of red grapes, and I thought the reason is I would want grapes with more antioxidants, and I believe red have more than green. Is that the case?
Yes. Unfortunately, to some extent. Now, actually, in grapes, I prefer the taste of red grapes or black ones. But in wines, which I don't do much of anyway, I prefer the taste of white wine to red wine. So.
I agree with you. Me too. I agree. But I chose the red grapes because of the antioxidants. And Dr. Shealy, now I'm looking at food differently. I'm looking at what are the health benefits of making these choices rather than, that would be, I guess I should say, the health benefits are number one on my list. So if I look at plums versus nectarines versus pears versus apples, I try to pick the fruits that would have the best benefit for my body or our family's bodies. Endurance, longevity, help fight diseases, improve the immune system, those kinds of things. I avoid colors, artificial colors, and things that are bad. But, the things that are bad for us have been, in my opinion, engineered to taste better than the things that might be good for us.
To some extent that's true, but I mean, you take pomegranates. Now, when I was growing up, my great-grandmother especially had wonderful pomegranate trees. And pomegranates are one of those things that conventionally, without any, genetic modification, have very high antioxidants. But to some extent, all of the colored fruits, and all fruits are colored to some extent, but the stronger the color, the greater the antioxidant capacity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I was saying, Dr. Shealy, was if you look at some of the candies, these artificially colored candies, artificially colored drinks, there are colors that are not in nature. If you go down the beverage aisle of a supermarket,
that's junk.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about pure old junk.
Right. And we don't buy those things, and we don't consume those things, and so it's that's what I'm talking about. In terms of the colors of the natural colors, I'm in total agreement, and we're very careful what we buy, and we also are careful where it comes from. And so if it doesn't have the country of origin, we don't buy it, because we were concerned for years about apples that come from Washington State because of the Hanford Reservation up there, and we know that the radioactivity is expanding, and we know that it's in the water that is taken up by the plants, and we certainly don't want to increase the radioactive compounds that we're ingesting. So we don't eat Washington State apples, and we don't eat tuna fish from the ocean, and actually we don't eat fish at all because of our concern, and we're concerned about farm-raised fish as well.
Especially, yes. I think farm-raised stuff is junk. Mm-hmm. It is pure, poison.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Shealy, I was reading a post about junk food causing what this post said is an epidemic of mental illness, and it went on to say that the reason is because of the lack of vitamins and minerals in junk food. So while it may look appetizing, those orange cheese balls or those multiple flavored potato chips, or Pringles, which is smashed potatoes and who knows what else, and looks like a potato chip, comes in a can, but with all of the chemicals that are in these junk foods, and then of course the absence of vitamins and minerals that we need, we are experiencing more mental illnesses. the inability to cope. And I'm seeing that more and more. People just can't seem to cope with when things go wrong. They don't know what to do. Do you see a link between diet, lack of minerals, lack of vitamins, and the ability to process properly with our minds?
Oh, absolutely. Poison is poison. I mean, just take monosodium glutamate, MSG. That is a brain poison.
Does that elevate blood pressure as well, Dr. Shealy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it's going to be difficult to go to a Chinese restaurant without them automatically adding MSG. I think if you're going to... Yeah, you'll have to ask for your Chinese meals to be made without MSG, and who knows if they're going to forget or not. Who knows if they're going to forget to leave it out. We'll be right back. Class Dr. Norman Shealy's with us, and if you'd like to call in, we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933, and we're live between the hours of 9 a.m. and 11 Central Time. Dr. Shealy, we have a friend who wears compression stockings, and he doesn't know that I'm talking about this particular issue with you. So I decided to look up compression stockings, and let me read this, please. It says, what causes swollen feet and legs? Goes on to say, your feet and legs swell when fluid builds up in the space between the cells of your body. There are many reasons this can happen, some quite serious, and many minor or transient. You should consult your doctor to determine the cause of your swelling, which you may hear referred to as edema. Goes on to say, among the possible causes for swollen feet and legs, serious condition of the kidney, heart, liver, or blood vessels, varicose veins, or inflammation of the veins, phlebitis, trauma such as an ankle sprain, poor diet that's high in salt and carbohydrates, sodium retention, allergic reactions, neuromuscular disorders, birth control pills, hormone replacement therapy, pregnancy, and premenstrual syndrome. So that's what this post says about these stockings. And then it talks about self-assessment quiz. Do you have any open sores, high blood pressure, headaches, palpitations, swollen hands or wrists, puffy eyes, increased weight? And then it talks about these stockings that can, the compression therapy. Dr. Shealy, then I went on to read about a high blood pressure medicine that many people seem to be taking, and it's known as amlodipine, AMLODIPINE. The brand name would be Norvasc. It goes on, and then this other post goes on to say that one of the complications if you take amlodipine is swelling in your feet or ankles. And I'm wondering, Dr. Shealy, do you think that people are taking Norvasc or amlodipine for high blood pressure and so forth, and then they're having these symptoms, and they haven't related the symptoms of the swelling, the edema, if you will, these large ankles and calves and so forth, with the side effects or complications of amlodipine?
Well, that's just one of the complications, Vince. Mm-hmm. Absolutely close to 100% is chronic fatigue, and if you're a man, almost 100% have erectile dysfunction, both of which would be worse than swollen feet. You know, the antihypertensive drugs are among the greatest scams on the face of the earth. Taking 3 different categories of antihypertensive drug controls blood pressure about 45% of the time, meaning 55% of the time, no help at all, and close to 100% having some kind of complication, whereas we can control hypertension 99.8% of the time without a drug.
Okay, so how do we do it?
Well, of course, we always start with Kyano Nitro Extreme because it's one thing. It's so simple.
Kyani Nitro Extreme. Okay.
Works in 70% of people. If that does not work, then we get L-taurine, 5,000 or 6,000 milligrams, Dr. Shealy's Essential, Dr. Shealy's Youth Formula. That works in 90% of those who fail Nitro Extreme, but there are 3 products. If that doesn't work, autogenic training, which works in 80% of people, period. So, we've got a 99.78% chance of controlling it safely without drugs.
But you're the only medical doctor who recommends this that I know, Dr. Shealy.
Well, unfortunately, that is true, and that's just one of the bad things in current medicine. The other is coronary bypass surgery, which is even worse.
Dr. Norman Shealy and I will be right back, and we're talking about high blood pressure medicine, amlodipine or Norvasc, and the way you can alternatively treat it with L-taurine, Dr. Shealy's Essentials, Dr. Shealy's Youth Formula, autogenic training, and Kyani Nitro Extreme. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us, and Dr. Shealy, we've got Ron in North Carolina. Ron, welcome.
Hey, Vince. Good to talk to you.
Hey, what? You have a big fan club out there, Ron.
I can't tell you how much I am so grateful for the support I've had since I got sick and had to have some surgery done. It's just been overwhelming. I can't thank everybody enough.
I received so many calls and emails asking me if you were okay. You mind if I give out your last name?
No, that's fine.
Ron Gibson. Ron Gibson is the gentleman who takes USA Prepares broadcasts and posts them on YouTube every day. And he is originally he posted them without commercials. He posts Mike Rivero, Alex Jones, and USA Prepares. And we had a hiccup with posting them without commercials. That has been resolved, and he is back to posting without commercials right now. So, Ron, I want to thank you. And you've Ron Gibson, the well-known Ron Gibson of the YouTube channel, the Ron Gibson channel. Hey, thank you so much, Ron, for posting. And I don't know if you heard, but you got a shout-out and a thank you this morning at hour number 1.
Yeah, Rick. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So you have a question for Dr. Shealy?
Yes, I'd like to talk to Dr. Shealy, and thank you, Dr. Shealy, for being on the air with us.
Well, delighted, of course.
2 weeks ago, I had to go and have emergency surgery done on my gallbladder. I had 2 gallstones stuck in a duct. And the first operation, they went in and removed those and removed what they call gravel and sludge. And then the next day, they went in and took my gallbladder out. I've been having the problem for a few years, but the pain would eventually go away. I don't know if there was something that I could have done in between times. I've tried to do some gallbladder cleanses, but I don't know if my gallbladder was just too far gone or what. I don't know if there's some information that you can give us to maybe help somebody else out.
Well, in general, the gallbladder or liver flush was introduced many, many decades ago by Jethro Close. And the main thing is you prepare for it by drinking a lot of apple juice, and then you take a certain amount of olive oil in lemon juice. And I presume that's what you meant by the gallbladder flush. In general, as long as the gallstones are not too big, a liver flush can be superb. even with passing. A lot of I've had several people bring me. I don't know how you collect them. We won't go there, but bring me the stones they passed after a gallbladder or liver flush. But let's face it, the gallbladder is one of the. It's not as common as the appendix for causing trouble, but it is one of the things that causes trouble. Apparently, because of our diet. The important thing is that now it can be taken out without open surgery through a very tiny little slit and a laparoscope. And that is, of course, a huge improvement over the old open gallbladder removal. Many people do pretty well after removing the gallbladder. Some people continue to have a lot of problems with digestion, gas, especially can't tolerate even some of the cold family cabbage and that kind of family, or fat. And in those people, they need to get bile salts. Back in the old days, there used to be something called Carter's Little Liver Pills, and that's what they were. But they're no longer sold as far as I can tell. But you can buy gall bladder or gall salt capsules, and one of those with each meal will usually take care of people who have trouble with digestion after the removal of a gallbladder.
Okay. One other thing that's been bothering me since the surgery, I've been having, I guess I had some kind of a pancreatitis along with the...
Ooh, yeah, that's a biggie.
And I said, it's been 2 weeks after surgery now, and I'm still having a considerable amount of pain coming through the center, mid-lower of my back.
Okay, here is where I would use castor oil packs. So you get a big piece of cloth, soak it in castor oil, place it over your entire abdomen, but especially that part just above the belly button all the way up, and put a piece of plastic on it. And actually, ideally, in a situation like yours, I would just wrap my whole body in saran wrap after I got the castor oil pack in it, and sleep in it overnight, every night for at least a week.
And what is the main purpose of that?
Well, castor oil on the surface of the abdomen is absorbed and helps lymph flow, which, of course, improves inflammation.
Okay, and then as far as the amount of castor oil?
Well, it probably will take a minimum of a half a cup.
Okay.
It should be a not drippy wet, but a quite wet piece of cloth, big enough to cover that area.
And the castor oil can be purchased at drugstore?
Now, that you don't have to get it at a drugstore. I would get it at a health food store because you can buy a pint. And in the drugstores, usually it's only 2 ounces.
Okay, that's why I thought it'd come in a little small bottle.
Right. No, you can buy a pint of it at a health food store.
Okay. Because I was talking to the doctor. I had a doctor visit Monday, and he did some tests on more blood work, and said everything is in the normal level, whatever that means.
Well, that means that as far as he could tell, there's no active pancreatitis, but it can take a month to clear up something like that, but I think the castor oil packs can speed it up.
Well, that sounds great. I'll definitely do that. I've got another doctor's appointment this afternoon, and I'll make sure I'll stop by and pick up some castor oil.
Great. Good luck.
Well, thank you, Dr. Shealy.
Ron, thank you for what you do. And I have a question for you. I've mentioned to the class on air that we had a chance to have a bite to eat together, and that was really fun. But I'd like to ask you on the air, if you don't mind, why is it that you have selected USA Prepares to? You volunteered to do this. I didn't talk to you before. You just did it, and people would say to me, "Have you heard of Ron Gibson?" I'd say, "Well, tell me." And they'd say, "Well, he's putting USA Prepares on YouTube every day, and it's a great way for those who, want to listen to USA Prepares to be able to just put it on their screen on their PC." Why is it that you decided to do that, Ron? Can you share that with us?
The main reason is that I'm kind of a free thinker, and I really enjoy when I came across your show on GCN. Of course, I was listening to Alex and Michael Rivero, and I've gone through pretty much everyone on GCN's list. And your show kind of jumped out at me because it was more or less a survival, straight talk, and I really appreciate your demeanor and how you deliver the message that you're trying to get out to everybody. And that really meant a lot to me. So that's the reason I picked your show.
Well, thank you so much. And the reason I asked you is I think that's a question that many of our class are interested in. Why did this happen? And this all happened before I ever knew about Ron Gibson. So that's very kind of you to do that, and I'm sure all of the instructors in class really appreciate it. And you really do have a fan club, and it's worldwide, as you may know. I in the early days of learning about Ron Gibson, Miles in Europe was telling me that Ron Gibson is doing a lot of work to get the message of USA Prepares out there, and so he's aware of it, and others in many continents are aware of your work. So thank you so much, Ron Gibson. Really.
Well, thank you, Vince.
And good luck with that pancreas.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shealy.
Have a good one.
Thanks again, Ron.
Thank you.
Isn't that neat, Dr. Shealy, that Ron Gibson has made it kind of a mission to make sure that those who can't get our broadcast other ways can get it on YouTube, and he's been doing it for years. And he's a very humble man. He's a very quiet man. He's a very unassuming man. He's just a real gentleman. And so thank you again, Ron Gibson. Dr. Shealy, we were talking about amlodipine, and we were talking about antihypertensive drugs. And I was thinking about, and you mentioned that it can cause erectile dysfunction. And then put a smile on my face because I was thinking about Hillary Clinton's top aide, Huma, and her husband, Anthony Weiner, who obviously is not taking amlodipine because he is willing to show his erection to anyone who will pay attention to him. He's
male or female? Oh, my.
That guy
is just, isn't he?
He's just trash.
He obviously didn't learn from getting kicked out of office.
Right. And so these are the people we're supposed to look up to. I mean, I look down at him. I mean, this guy is just disgraceful. He's an intergalactic disgrace.
Well, but, what do you expect with Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, and he wanted to be mayor. I mean, oh, man. It just totally trashed the city, New York City, with him as mayor. Gosh, can you imagine that? Can you imagine if he were married to Huma, and Huma is the top aide to Hillary, and Hillary became president? I mean, just let's trash Washington, D.C. some more. Dr. Shealy, when we come back, can we talk a little bit more about these compression stockings and what your thoughts are? Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, medical doctor, and if you'd like to go to his website and purchase Bliss or some of his supplements, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. And Dr. Shealy, if those who are in class today would like to subscribe to your newsletter, they can just go to normshealy.com and click on the newsletter, and you'll get the same newsletter that I get. And class, that newsletter list is not sold. That's just used so that you can get the newsletter from Dr. Shealy multiple times per week. Absolutely great advice. Easy to read, capsulated advice that short, to the point, and delivered multiple times per week. So I suggest you consider signing up for that class. It's absolutely free. Compression stockings, Dr. Shealy. I remember many times seeing large-legged women, actually big women, middle-aged women, with small shoes and skin of their feet actually growing outside of the shoes. So it looks like they, when they put their shoes on in the morning, they fit, but by the end of the day, if you take the shoe off, you'll never get it back. You never get your foot back in. Edema, and it doesn't look like they're wearing these compression stockings. Would you say that compression stockings are beneficial or not beneficial, or are there concerns? What are your thoughts, Dr. Shealy?
Minimally beneficial. You really want to get at the cause. And the cause is, either heart trouble, kidney trouble, or liver trouble. It really needs a very thorough medical workup and of course, if they're fat to start with, there's at least half of the problem.
Well,
because
the
the
women
heart,
that I've
liver,
seen,
and kidney just can't keep up with that bloat. And
Dr.
I know
Shealy,
I'm
are we
being
sure?
insensitive, but, fat's fat.
Well, and I think that's okay, because maybe we need to jolt some of our class who's overweight and help them to live longer, because we certainly would like to see that happen. We'd like to see them live to their fullest potential and for the longest time possible.
And
so Dr.
the
Shealy,
number one measured cause of premature death is obesity, period.
Is there a correlation, Dr. Shealy, with eating before bedtime? Just for a bedtime snack, whatever it might be, and weight gain. Do we put more, food input, time of day being just before bed? Does that give us more weight accumulation than if we were to eat during the day when we might be moving around and exercising, working?
To a greater extent, yes. No question about it. You really, ideally, would not eat any substantial amount of food within 3 hours of bedtime.
Okay. Dr. Shealy, so someone who has this edema, this fluid buildup, should they be drinking herbal tea or some kind of a tea as a diuretic to naturally get some of that liquid off and pee it out, or what are your thoughts on that?
There are, there are no good diuretics except watermelon seed. And watermelon seed actually is a good diuretic.
So how do we eat watermelon seeds, Dr. Shealy? Do we grind them up, dry them and grind them up, or do we just, what do we do?
Yeah.
Well, that's great, because I can only remember composting watermelon seeds, except for the ones I was saving to grow watermelons next season. Other than that, they go in the compost, so we can actually eat the seeds.
Yes. I actually, when I eat watermelon, I chew the seeds a bit. But they are a good diuretic.
Okay. What about those who have hiatal hernias and are told not to eat seeds? Is that true anymore, or is it reverse thinking?
Well, hiatal hernia is a big, big biggie. It can cause everything, including severe lung congestion, because it leads to that kind of thing.
Is there surgery that can remedy that, or not?
Yes, it is big surgery, but it's better than having a bad disease.
Okay. Dr. Shealy and I'll be right back. Dr. Norm Shealy's with us, normshealy.com. Dr. Shealy, yesterday I was picking up some parts for our tractor. I was having a hose fabricated because one of the hydraulic lines failed. And so I was getting this hose made, and during the process of making the hose, I ran into a friend at the place that makes the hoses for us. And I asked about another friend, and I said, well, how's he doing? And he said, well, he's got brain cancer, and he has bone cancer, and he has another kind of cancer, but, the brain cancer is almost gone. The bone cancer is almost gone, and he's doing pretty well. He's getting better. And I said, and there was a lull in the conversation, because I was thinking, boy, this man has really a cross to bear. And I said, did he used to smoke? And my friend said, oh, he still does. And I thought, wow. I mean, I said, he still smokes after all that? And then my friend said, well, maybe it's because of the shock to his system if he quits smoking. Dr. Shealy, I have another friend. You know him. He's a he's a
can't fix stupid.
Yeah. Well, that was my question. Is I have another friend who is coughing more than years ago, and a little more short of breath. I can hear it in his voice, and I'm thinking, so are you going to quit? And he said, well, he was talking to his doctor, and he thinks that the shock to his system might be worse than quitting. Dr. Shealy, can you tell us definitively what the real answer to this is? Because I don't know if people are using addicted smokers, which is extremely hard to quit smoking. Are they using this as a crutch to say, to make the person they're talking to feel that, okay, yeah, it'd be worse if they quit than if they didn't quit? Is this a crutch, or is there any reality to this? Dr.
Well,
Shealy?
actually, about 1/2 of smokers are truly addicted. So they do get withdrawal symptoms. Now, there's only one way to quit smoking, ultimately, and there are things you could do to assist, but one way is willpower. The idea of weaning is useless. It has been shown over and over again that people, that cut down a little bit at a time, they never get off them because they truly are addicted. Now, I'm glad you brought that up because I just did a workshop out in California, and a highly sensitive person wrote a nasty letter how awful I was because I actually just said that my father, I said for many, many years, who was a wonderful person, but he committed suicide smoking. And she thought I had created one of those great, things, the words that I should never use. How can you say someone addicted committed suicide? Well, people who overeat are committing suicide. People who don't exercise are committing suicide. People who smoke are committing suicide. People who drink are committing suicide. People who take street drugs are committing suicide. Come off it. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, common sense is still the uncommon commodity, and for somebody to argue that it's an addiction, well, most addictions are suicide.
Dr. Shealy, when you say this, people are thinking about jumping off a bridge, committing suicide, overdosing on meds, committing suicide, slitting their wrists, shooting themselves, those kinds of things, because they're fast, relatively fast, within minutes, compared to the slow suicide that you're talking about. And I think that very few people have had an aha moment just now listening to you say that smoking is committing suicide, but it's, over time. It's not instantaneous or within minutes.
Exactly. Well, I often say even saints can only eat so much arsenic and survive.
Yeah.
And, if it's poison and it's poison, then you have made a conscious decision to commit suicide at some level. And I understand I'm hurting some poor people's feelings, tough snooks.
Yeah.
If I save one life by saying that, it's worth it.
Okay. So absolutely, and I'm so glad that you've said this, Dr. Shealy. So now it's clear. If you're smoking, you need to stop. Dr. Shealy, I've heard that alcoholism is a disease. Is that a disease, or is that an addiction?
It's an addiction. And excess alcohol is another way of committing suicide.
Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is it a disease that you just seem to get, or is it something that you've acquired this addiction
in my opinion, a healthy, self-respected person would never become an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. Now, let's face it, things are seducing, so to speak, and I'm sure that, but people who get into excess alcohol have low self-esteem. People who get into excess smoking, smoking in general, have low self-esteem. Now, way back in the old days, like when my father started at age 10, before we knew anything about these things, it wasn't, wasn't probably suicide in those days, but after 1940, anyone who started smoking was not using common sense.
Dr. Shealy, during World War II, the tobacco companies were they were providing free cigarettes to the GIs, and when the GIs came back, they had an addicted customer base for those cigarettes. All they had to do was get them hooked. And I know a man who lives in Virginia. We built a computer network for his tobacco company. They manufacture cigarettes. I know that top management. We help them get started by through our technology. And I'll even tell you the company. It's called S&M Brands. They started blending cigarettes, and they were willing to give a carton of cigarettes to someone who smoked because they knew that person, if he switched, would become another revenue source, because there's so much profit in selling this weed tobacco.
Vince, you're too young to remember that well after World War II, the airlines used to pass out sample cigarettes on their flights.
Mm-hmm.
They passed them out like peanuts.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Shealy, I do remember...
They are as evil as the tobacco company for considering that.
Dr. Shealy, I remember being in New York City as a very young person with my mom and seeing these young women passing out small packages of cigarettes, maybe 2 cigarettes in a little package, and just to anybody who walked down the sidewalk. Would you like some cigarettes? Would you like some cigarettes? And they were just giving them away.
Oh, yeah. Well, and many, many, many actors, including Clark Gable and a lot of other well-known, used to promote them in ads.
Yeah. Yeah, more doctors prefer, Tareyton? Or I forget the brand, but maybe it was Tareyton.
I think, Lucky Strikes is one of them that I remember being promoted heavily that way.
Yeah. And so they use the medical profession to help sell cigarettes and let people think that these were good for you or were beneficial. And what nonsense.
Glad you brought that up. There was a so-called nutritionist, PhD, Fred Stair, at Harvard University, who for his entire career promoted sugar as a good food. He was a pimp for the sugar industry.
Wow. I'm speechless. You mentioned low self-esteem a few minutes ago. Do you think that relates to tattoos as well? That people who have low self-esteem?
In general, yes. In general, yes. I have not, I do think that for some people, it may not have been self-esteem as in the direct sense, but sort of keeping up with the crowd, just as some people probably take up smoking and drinking, etc., to keep up with friends. And underlying that, there is some poor self-esteem. But sometimes I do believe that young people, teens especially, just don't know. Even in today's world, they may not have been adequately educated to know just how harmful these things are.
I'm looking at some images of cigarette ads, and 20,679 physicians say Luckies, meaning Lucky Strike cigarettes, are less irritating. And then more doctors More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
I remember those as well. I mean, it's part of pimphood. That's all I can say, pimphood.
Yeah. And these are if you look at the images of these doctors, they're smiling, they look healthy, they look happy. Wow. Here's one that says Viceroys. Ask your dentist. I would recommend Viceroys. Can you imagine?
Yep.
Can you imagine?
It is interesting. And of course, back, I think it was in the 40s, when a few physicians began to speak out against this, they were highly attacked by the rest of the medical profession.
Okay, so we talked about smoking, and the bottom line is we absolutely positively have to stop smoking. Dr. Shealy, when we come back, may we talk about tampons and toxic shock, heavy metals. What type of test do you recommend if someone wants to know if he or she has heavy metals in his or her system, and the signs of Alzheimer's? Dr. Shealy, and I'll be right back. That's Dr. Norm Shealy's with us, normshealy.com. Dr. Shealy, I've got a couple of things that if we can get through them, would be great in a few remaining minutes. Here's the headlines. Diabetic father goes blind at 32 years of age after he smoked, guzzled fizzy drinks, and failed to attend medical appointments. Michael Betteridge was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 6 years old, was told to eat healthy, to control blood sugar levels, but ignored the warnings. He was diagnosed with diabetic retinopathy, damage to the retina. In May, he will never see his wife or 2 children again, and he also may lose a foot. That's the dailymail.co.uk. Dr. Shealy, type 1 diabetes and not paying attention.
Well, yes, it is more serious than type 2, although people with type 2 can have all the same complications long term. But type 1 is a much more serious disease. And again, you can't afford any bad habits when you've got a disease like that.
And I understand that amputations are on the increase at the highest level ever for diabetes-related complications. People are having more parts cut off them as a result of diabetes than ever before. And Dr. Shealy, is it because we're just doing what this 32-year-old man did? Just the heck with it. I'm tough.
Virtually 100% of type 2 diabetics can stop the disease, turn it around totally if they take care of themselves. Which means losing weight down to a totally normal body mass index of 18 to 24 and not having any other bad habits. And again, it's darn near 100% who will get rid of the disease if they just take up good health habits.
Okay. Heavy metals testing. What type of test would you recommend if someone wanted to know if he or she had heavy metals in their body, lead, cadmium, arsenic?
Well, if you know you've got it, chelation is the treatment of choice. And DMSA is an oral chelation that works beautifully for most heavy metal toxicity. For some people, it could require intravenous chelation. But either way, it is definitely worthwhile.
Okay. Is there a test to find out?
Oh, yeah. It's very simple.
Okay.
You really do need to take 1,000 milligrams of DMSA and then collect your urine for the next 24 hours and send it off for a heavy metal test. It's done. The best company, I think, is Doctors Data in Chicago. They have an excellent history of measuring those things for you, and it's definitely worth doing.
Great. Is there a blood test?
The blood tests are much, much, much more expensive, and really to get the whole smear, there's a wide number of heavy metals. So it would be, unless you know which one, arsenic or lead or whatever, it's better to do the urine.
Okay.
Even hair is fair, but not as good as urine.
Okay. How about tampons and toxic shock, Dr. Shealy? What are your thoughts on...
Interestingly, I have to admit I'm not an authority on that by any means. I'm aware of it, and I don't know all the intimate details, but we certainly know that it can happen. My suspicion is that women who get toxic shock probably have a few other problems, but I need to look that up and be sure of that statement. But, smoking, for instance, would increase the risk. Having diabetes would increase the risk.
Let's talk about that next week.
I will look it up in the meantime.
Okay. How about the signs of Alzheimer's, Dr. Shealy? Are there visible signs that if you look at someone sitting down in a waiting room or, are there visible signs that you can see a person might have Alzheimer's?
You see, they have sort of a blank face. They look as if they're not here.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is I think I saw that yesterday. A woman was in a waiting room, head down, as low as it would go, absolutely, I believe, asleep in her wheelchair in a public place. And I thought, is that a symptom or a sign of Alzheimer's?
Can be, but it's a
Dr.
wide variety of possibilities.
Thank you so much for being with us today, class. Above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.